So the question is our government broken? I think the government is an evolving entity and how it works. We kind of think that the founding fathers and mothers created something that we're all living out today. The truth is it's been constantly evolving from the very beginning to meet our needs, and that's really what it's meant to do. There's some basic institutions that are locked in, but it's evolving, and those people that created the bases for the government were doing so with 13 colonies and trying to figure out a completely different set of circumstances. So it's always evolving, it's always changed, it's completely different than it really was in, at its founding. And there's pieces of it that are broken right now that are not working. And so, yeah, I don't think it's completely broken. I think when people usually ask the question, is government broken? They're really asking, is it destroyed? Is it like a car you can no longer drive? I don't believe that. I think it can be evolved, reformed, and fixed to serve the current purpose. What's really broken is any desire for either political party to allow the other one to get credit for getting anything accomplished. So for example, on the issue of immigration, which is very important, particularly to progressives haven't really wanted to get legislation passed either because they don't want to give a win to the other side, would be one example. And the same on the Republican side. They've had opportunity to pass things knowing that Democrats would vote in favor of it, but they didn't want to do it when Democrats would get credit for it. So this idea of scoring and getting credit and not wanting to give a candidate a talking point on the campaign trail has really held things up, I think. Well, if you were to fix government, I think you'd have to understand the difference between government and political parties. They're completely different things, and we kind of mush it together. So our political parties are broken, and they are polarized, and they have created incentives that mean that when they don't work, they succeed better. We've incentivized that in our political system. So that is broken, the ability to work together, and the desire now to demonize opponents is now thriving. That means that a democracy can't work. The systems themselves, I think the government itself could still work. It's really the cultural polarization that's broken down in the system. But I've been on the other side of this where I've seen government do amazing things like the Delivering AIDS Drugs to Africa program because we got the Black Congressional Caucus on early and we got the evangelicals on early, and we built an unusual coalition that nobody could oppose. So that was a way of making government work, but it required understanding politics. I don't think I could have done that today. Like, I don't think I could build that coalition. Neither side would want to give the other credit, whoever the president was. In that case, it was President Bush, and it's considered probably his greatest accomplishment. So people don't want to do that right now. So I think what's broken is the way that we operate together. And as long as people are invested in polarization and hatred of each other and winner takes all thinking, we're not going to move ahead on major issues, because it will never be in my interest in the minority of either party to give you a victory as a majority during my time in the minority. So I'll try to sabotage, resist, and stop you from doing what you're doing, and at the same time, vice versa, whatever party is either in power or not in power. So the question right now is, how do we change our parties? And one thing that I learned during my log cabin experience that's very practical to today is, first of all, get involved. We were a tiny, tiny group within the Republican Party. We had a disproportionate impact. When we started, we set goals of changing the country on gays serving in the military. We want to change the perspective of gay marriage, which actually progressive gay and lesbians opposed in many cases at that time. And we wanted to see a breakthrough on AIDS drugs, which again was controversial. There was a debate whether it was services or treatment or a cure. So we had all these debates. And on every one of those, we saw success. a small, tiny group of people took over state parties in urban areas across the country. In almost every city, there was a log cabin chapter that took over that. They were then forced to have to attend the state party events and sit on committees and meet people and get to know them. So we were in a huge education campaign, but it was because we got involved. I did my role at the national level, but really where the change took place were the people who showed up at the local level, got involved, showed up for votes, showed up for town hall meetings, went to state conventions. It's the boring work of getting involved. Also, we created a PAC, tiny little PAC in the scheme of things, but people really sought our funds. So what struck me in that experience was how a small group of people could have a huge impact on changing an issue that looked impossible at the time. And today we look back and say, why did that happen so fast? Because we had bipartisan support on working both sides of the aisle and educating the public on those issues and building coalitions. But it was just a few people getting involved because the reality is so few people do get involved. And unfortunately in our culture right now, the zealots in each party dominate that process at the very basic level. And it doesn't really reflect the public, and it doesn't really reflect where we might compromise. It reflects people who are very ideologically engaged. And the secret really is for people, all people, to get more involved at the local level and get back involved with democracy. Democracy doesn't work if you don't participate. And so that's really the key. We got to get involved. But again, I was just struck with how little money we had, how little people we had, but yet how much we could dominate an agenda and dominate debates, use the media and so forth to get our message across.